Good morning, everyone. Um, Today's topic for discussion is moonlighting ethical or unethical? With everyone's permission, I would like to start the discussion.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, before putting forward my own perspective, I would like to state what moonlighting is, a little bit of light on that. So, moonlighting is, in very simple terms, it's like you have a primary job at hand, like you are working somewhere, but the act of working working at an extra job, especially without telling your primary employer, is considered moonlighting. And my like own perspective is I'm against it. I find it unethical. There are a couple of reasons for that. I'll state my primary reason first and then let you guys put forward your opinion. For me, but particularly, I find it is unethical because it can compromise on a lot of sensitive information. Um, you're working with another client, which could be a potential competitor of your primary employer. So yeah, I feel it can lead to a lot of compromising on sensitive information.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay, all right.
I
I would
So,
like to,
respectfully disagree with your point. Like in my opinion, I feel that it's ethical, uh, because I feel that first of all, you would need skill development. It'll help you in skill development. You'll be working something other than your current job. Also, you've got financial. Some people have got financial necessities, and working another job hurts no one. Other than that, I mean, there are job securities, and like if anybody else wants to add to that.
yeah, adding to
Yeah,
what Chirag said,
actually,
I'll go ahead.
uh,
I feel employers might have certain financial needs or certain goals which they might not be able to accomplish with the current job. So, moonlighting is not unethical in that situation. Also, I believe moonlighting can be done where they don't have the threat of exposing their current employment sensitive data. The job profiles should not conflict each other. In that case, I don't think moonlighting is the problem for either of them. Manasvi, go ahead.
I would like
yeah,
to
I
disagree with the
feel
receipt
okay.
that the
Actually,
conflict of
I'd like to go first
Yeah,
if
Krish, like
I
you
okay,
have.
can give Manasvi a chance.
Yeah. So
uh,
I feel moonlighting has both its positive and its negative. I have a mixed opinion about it. So as Chirag said, yes, people have some financial burden. Like in many cases, individual turn to moonlighting because of the financial necessity, like the rising cost of living and stagnant wages makes it very challenging to make end to end with the sources. And it also leads to skill development. Like it creates a lot of opportunities for professionals to develop like more and more new skills and gain experience in different fields that could be very beneficial to their economic growth and career growth. Additionally, I feel it also supports work-life balance. Like in some cases, people have a lot of passions and hobbies for many things. Like let's say stand-up comedy, but they cannot resort to that as the primary source of income because it is not financially stable. Hence, they opt for a stable financial source, and apart from that, they also contribute to all these things for their mental health and work-life balance. And it also has unethical perspectives, as a lot of you mentioned. The first primary concern is the conflict of interest, like working in competitors business can compromise with the individual's loyalty and the effectiveness of primary job. And there's also a risk of juggling multiple tasks, which could be very tiring, and a person could get burned out very easily. And I believe it could also lead to breach of contract, like many employments include causing prohibiting external employment because of the breach of contract. So I believe it has both positives and negatives, and we need to find a middle point to juggle between them.
Yeah.
I differ with the point of the DC as you mentioned about the conflict of interest regarding the job profile. It's not always about the conflict of interest regarding job, but it can be also be complex and can pose the significant challenges regardless of the transparent communications. Employee owe their primary employees undivided loyalties, a commitment that the moonlighting often put at the risk. It is not just about the potential conflict, but the matter of engaging in the secondary employment which can compromise their essential elegance.
Yeah, I mean, adding to the points that Manasvi mentioned, I feel that, I also see like moonlighting as a way to foster innovation. because we've seen many innovators who worked on their primary jobs and then they switched on to something they wanted to innovate for a very long time. And we've seen leaps and bounds and jumps because they actually loved what they do. So by engaging in diverse roles and projects, you get to understand your depth and you get to work on something that you are actually passionate about. So that's a point that I wanted to mention.
Yeah, giving some example, even Swiggy announced a moonlighting policy where it allowed its workers to have an additional job after their shift is over in their. Uh, Another example I would give is about Wipro. They consider moonlighting to be unethical. They recently fired 300 employees just because they were working in the rival company as well.
Yeah, I mean, like, even in IBM back in the day, Steve Wozniak worked on his project, and that actually gave us the Apple today. So if people wouldn't have worked for it, and we won't have Apple, and we won't have the phones that we use today.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and
think
we cannot forget
that's
the
what I.
ethical consideration in it.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I mean,
Manasi?
Okay,
if yeah, go ahead, Mansfi. You answer it.
yeah. So I like as I said earlier, we should find a middle way to juggle between them. Like let's say you are working in a business, you shouldn't work in the same competitive business. Like if you're working in a burger shop, you shouldn't work in a similar burger shop because that would breach your loyalty and it would could create some sense of uh, like that would not be loyal from your perspective, right? But you could work as a side business, like you could have a simple hobby, like maybe you're doing dance or maybe you're performing music with your job. That is completely fine, but you shouldn't be working in the same conflict of interest area.
Yeah, I
With
believe
complete
moonlighting.
respect. Yeah, go
Yeah,
ahead.
I believe just one more point I had to add.
Yeah,
I believe moonlighting is good unless until it doesn't affect your primary workspace. Like your productivity and your effectiveness must be the same even by taking the second job.
Yeah.
With complete respect to everyone's opinion, I do appreciate you guys putting up the fact that people can innovate on the secondary idea that they have been working while primary source being their financial support. But I also do feel that from the employer's perspective, it becomes unfair to him because the employers are hiring you with the expectation of you putting in all your effort and your full commitment to the primary job that they are hiring you for, and you going for a secondary job might divert your attention and split your energy. At the end of the day, you have a energy reserve, and the employer is hiring you for his full commitment, for your full commitment to his job, and that I feel is a bit unfair on his side. And it becomes very difficult from the employee's perspective as well to work in two different fields. Basically his personal life gets uh, very screwed up.
I mean,
And to add with
just
the
giving.
added point, we cannot
Yeah.
go with the ethical consideration of it that the complementary breach and the decreased productivity are the fundamental concerns that are not easily mitigated in the moonlight scenarios. Upholding
Exactly,
the
the decreased
integrity and
productivity
the
is sorry.
yeah,
I mean,
or we can uphold the integrity and the effective.
if you actually manage that with the right time, like basically, if I have to give an example, I'll give an example of Google itself. Google actually provides you time and space where you can work on your own personal projects, where you can basically you work in the same field of your tech job, but you can work on your personal projects, which can basically help you further in be it financially or be it in other ways also. So I mean, like that's the best example that I can give to your point, Aditya.
That is not
Yeah,
moonlighting, to be very honest.
yeah,
Working on your personal projects, and I
But
wanted to
that can
state the same
ultimately
point when
generate if it generates financial services later on, then
yeah,
ultimately it
then
becomes moonlighting,
yeah,
right?
yeah, okay. But that is you're converting your project into something big later on. Later on, moonlighting is something that you're working in two companies together. So that
yeah.
brings on
Adding
ethical
to what
concerns.
Malpani said, moonlighting also poses a threat to the current employer that you might utilize your current working time to carry out some other tasks that you might be working somewhere else. So that is not fair for the
Yeah.
employer as well.
Yeah, and adding to
As
that,
you
it
guys
is very.
mentioned that, yeah, as you guys mentioned that as Manasvi mentioned that someone can work on a stand-up comedy. Chirag mentioned that Google allows you to work on your personal projects. Those are all your personal hobbies and your personal, uh, personal targets that you want to achieve. And that is not moonlighting. Moonlighting is working for another employer. So until and unless you are working on your own personal projects, at the end of the day, you are in any organization to learn yourself. So till the time that you are implementing it for yourself, I feel that's fair.
I mean, there's a thin line
I don't
between
think
that.
that
Yeah,
I'll just go forward. I
yeah,
don't
yeah,
think
Yeah,
that
okay.
yeah.
working on your personal thing that is generating you economic funds. For example, if you're doing stand-up comedy, you are doing for it for money, right? You might get some money out of it. So I think that would be considered as moonlighting, and it would be considered as a sector only. Personal projects might not be considered, but in future they will be leading to moonlighting. So like there are legal and ethical guidelines surrounding moonlighting. Like for in many areas you cannot opt for moonlighting. Like let's say government or healthcare, they might not provide you secondary employment because that might be heavily regulated by confidentiality.
Yeah, I would like
Yeah,
just
upholding
to
the
conclude
integrity
my
and the effect.
point. I'm really
Yes,
sorry,
yes.
Akash, I'm
Go ahead.
cutting you. But just to conclude my point, I would say that, from whatever I've heard from all of you, is that moonlighting is somewhat ethical and still somewhat unethical. But ultimately, I would go with my opinion that I consider it ethical in every sense of the way. That if you're earning in two ways, I feel it's always better for the person. It's always because if the person is not motivated and if he's not paid that enough in a single job, he should be passionate about to do some other job. So yeah, that's just my opinion. I'll just rest my case with that.
I
Yeah,
believe
I
At the
companies
conclusion,
should. Yeah, go ahead. Akash, go ahead.
the upholding the integrity and the effectiveness of a one primary goal should be the paramount. While the individual may attempt to manage their own time effectively, the risk of breaching the confidentiality or the meaning the quality persists here.
Yeah,
Yeah.
adding to that, I believe the companies should incorporate a moonlight policy into their employment, wherein they allow their employees to practice moonlighting unless and until it doesn't have any conflicting interest with the current company or any risk of leaking confidential information.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
That's
guess
fair.
I am in complete agreement to what Rishi had to say. Moonlighting can be practiced until and unless you are within the company's policies. And for example, as Rishi mentioned, that Swiggy has its own policy of if you are working after the working hours, then it's completely up to you. In that ways, you can work on your personal projects and your personal goals as well. Yeah.
I agree with all of your opinions. And in conclusion, I'd just like to say that moonlighting can be seen like a necessity or an opportunity for many, but it also raises legitimate concerns. So therefore, it is crucial for both the employer and employees to approach this subject with complete transparency and have a clear understanding of the potential impacts that it would have on the organization and the employer. That's it.
Uh, in closing, I would like to add that the element of the benefit from the moonlighting means seems to appealing to all of us, but it have measured the ethical dilemma. Its presents are the substantial. The conflict of interest and the compromised loyalty pose the genuine risk that cannot be overlooked. Upholding the ethical standard and the honoring the commitment to the one primary employer should take the precedence over the personal pursuit outside the primary goals. It's all about maintaining the integrity and ensuring the unwillingness dedication to the role one had committed to, fostering the trust and the reliability in the professional sphere. With this, I raise my case.
Yeah.